Today we are going to deal with payoff. We've talked about monthly. We've talked about if you make one big shot of a return payment. Now the other option is you're starting to make payments and you're like, you know what? I don't like dealing with this every month. I think I can put enough money together where I can just be done with it of your own accord, of your own choice. So here's how that's going to change things up a little bit. What is the benefit of paying off a loan before the end of the set term? Save, real simple. All that interest that you were going to have to pay each month that we were calculating before, you're not going to have to pay now. So that's all money that's going into your pocket for something else, which is always a nice thing. I will say this, though, when you're making loans, before you would do this, you would want to check with whatever company you've taken the loan from. Some companies put it right in the writing that you won't save any of the interest. They're still going to expect to get the interest one way or the other. So check before you give them the money in advance, because if you're not going to save the interest anyway, I'd make them wait. Just things to consider. So, okay, to make the final payment, you're going to have to pay the previous balance, of course, whatever was there the month before, plus the current month's interest. But any interest on future months or payments you were going to make before, you wouldn't owe anymore. Like I said, as long as there's not something in the writing of the contract or the loan that would say otherwise. So the formulas, again, are not going to be difficult. We're doing basic multiplying and subtraction like we have before. It's just, again, like we had in other times, figuring out what goes with what. Interest has not changed. It is still principal. How much money is there that you borrowed, okay, from the beginning, times rate as a decimal, times time. Even if you're in math class, in Algebra 1 and Algebra 2 class, interest will come up on some problems. That's going to be what you're dealing with.
Is that the I PRT equation?
That's the I equals PRT one. Yep. So there's some other forms of that, but that's the basic straightforward one that you'll see here and there. Your final payment is your previous month's balance. So whatever was left at the end of last month, plus your current month's interest. So whatever it was after I paid my payment last month, and that balance was remaining, I'm going to take that, calculate what I owe currently in interest, which we've been doing for the past couple of days. And if I put those two things together, that should be it. I'd be done with this particular loan. And so if at that point I wanted to say, hey, how much money am I actually saving? Here's how that would work. You're going to take the total that you end up paying back, okay, which is basically, well, I'll talk about that when we get numbers with it. That's going to be easier. Minus the sum of your previous payments, however much you paid already. Oh, I'm going to have to write smaller. Come on, Hardy. Some of your previous payments. I'm just going to write this as final pay instead of final payment because, well, I don't write small enough to get all that in there. So basically, that's just saying, hey, how much were you supposed to pay back? and then subtract what you paid back plus that final payment, and whatever the difference of those two things is, that's how much interest you ended up not having to pay over that time period. So, we have got a person here that took out a $1,425 loan at 14% for 12 months, made the first 3 payments, and then decided, hey, I can pay this off on payment number 4. How much is that going to cost? And it doesn't just mean, well, I had 9 payments left, so I multiply this by 9. It's going to be less than that. So, find my next color here. So, my previous balance, just whatever the last balance was after I made my last payment. So, 1,087.12. Nothing to calculate there. That's just, it's there. Find the interest for this 4th month. Okay, so my interest is my current balance times my rate is a decimal, so 14%, we divide that by 100, 0.14, times, remember, we're only doing this for a month, not a year, so we're going to keep using our time as 1/12. That will not change. So, let's see here. Whoops, not 1/2. That would be different. So like $12.68. So then, my final payment would be how much I still owed, $1,087.12 from last month, plus the interest payment for this month. So if all I was trying to figure out is what the final payment would be, that's what it would look like. Now notice this time we didn't do step 4. We didn't see how much interest we actually saved. We just wanted to get out of this so fast. We were like, we don't care. What do I have to pay you? Good, I'm done. We're finished. And we can get that out of the way. If I want to get that last piece, though, we're going to see one more example where we go all the way to the end with it and see how this is going to work. So, sometimes we got to do a little reading here. Like here they gave us this nice chart. And we just kind of followed it. Now we're going to get a lot of information, but we're going to have to kind of break this down a bit. Sandra obtained a $2,750 loan at 11% for 18 months. Okay. Her monthly payment is $166.43. After 5 payments, here's her new balance. Oofda. What is the interest on the 6th payment? What's the payment if she pays off the loan with the 6th payment? How much money would she save? Okay. Previous balance. The last balance she had. Well, she's already made 5 payments, and that's what's left. So that lowest current total is what our previous balance is. So if I don't have a chart, that's how I'm going to find it. Interest for the 6th month. This isn't going to look unusual because it's the same thing we did on the last one. There's my interest rate. Again, just divide it by 100. And again, we're only doing it for a month. So keep using the 1/12. So let's see here. So about $18.62 if we round up there. So we get that in. Still, nothing different from what we've been doing. So I look at the next one, find the final payment. We're like, okay, still nothing different. Take my previous balance. Plus my interest payment. So we got 2,049.47, which would finish things off. But here comes the question. So, how much interest did I save? Now, the total payback, if I'd have just gone month by month, paying back what I was supposed to, this total payback number would have been 18 months times whatever my monthly payment was. So let's see how much that would have been. 18 times 166.43. No, not 118. I don't want to make that many payments. Let's try that again. That was some sticker shock for a minute. Okay, that's better. So 2,995.74, if I'd have just month by month by month by month by month, would have gone through and done that. So now at first you may look and go, oh, so do I just subtract those two? No, because I made payments before then. So we're going to subtract the sum of my previous payments. So I made 5 payments. So I made 5 payments at the 166.43. And my final payment. So that 2,049.47. Okay. So get up to my current. This is the 5 prior payments. And then this is the last one. So I got to get those numbers. So it's not going to be quite as much as I thought it was going to be. But it will be a savings. So in the end, we saved $114.12 worth of interest by paying it off, 13 months early? I mean, when you look at it, you're like, oh, that ain't much. Well, when you're looking at that to that, what's that, 4.5%, 5%? That's not bad. It's another $114 you got to go spend on other stuff. So hey, it's not too much. So whenever we're looking for that interest saved, again, however many payments were you going to make for how many months, that'll let you know what the total payback is. Add up however many payments you've made, so it'll always tell you how much and how many payments you've made. And then if we did this part already, we're just going to subtract that final payment in there as well and find that interest. So you can kind of start to get an idea of not only, of course, what the practice would look like, because, well, you're like, it's going to look like the same thing, isn't it? You're like, yeah, it is. So again, a few where you're just dealing with the final payment, and then a few more, again, where you're finding the interest saved as well. If you need paper because they kind of squish you in on this, I will find some paper if that helps out as well. And then just looking ahead a little bit, tomorrow we're going to play, if you're taking out a loan, what's a good idea? How long would it take to pay out? And it just kind of lets us see all the things that we've dealt with this week. Yes, this will kind of work as a mini quiz or summative grade. We'll get an actual quiz preview Monday, and then Monday will be like the quiz, Tuesday, will be the quiz on this stuff. But I will keep this stuff up because that could come in handy as you're starting to do the practice. So